ਹਰਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਦੇ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਐਪੀਸੋਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪ ਸਭ ਦਾ ਕਰਦਾ ਹਾਂ ਹਾਰਦਿਕ ਸਵਾਗਤ। ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਖਾਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਕਰਵਾਉਣ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਪਾਇਨੀਅਰ ਨਾਲ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਸ ਲੈਵਲ ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਉਹ ਪਹੁੰਚਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਹੁੰਚਾਉਣ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਅਹਿਮ ਰੋਲ ਨਿਭਾਇਆ ਹੈ। ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਕਰਾਵਾਂਗੇ ਜ਼ੂਮਰ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਦੇ ਜੋ ਚੀਫ ਐਗਜ਼ੀਕਟਿਵ ਆਫਿਸਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਅਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਮੱਚ ਮਿਊਜ਼ਿਕ ਸਟਾਰਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ, ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਸਿਟੀ ਟੀਵੀ ਸਟਾਰਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ, ਹੁਣ ਜੋਏ ਟੀਵੀ ਅਤੇ ਵਿਜ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਇਹ ਮਾਲਕ ਹਨ, ਅਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਕਾਇਮ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਬਜ਼ੁਰਗਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ, ਜਿਸ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਹੈ ਕਾਰਪ। ਮੁੱਖ ਮਕਸਦ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਦਾ ਕਿ ਬਜ਼ੁਰਗਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਲੈਵਲ ਤੇ ਅੱਗੇ ਲਿਆਂਦਾ ਜਾਏ, ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਕੁਝ ਨਾ ਕੁਝ ਸਹੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਸੋਚ ਨਾਲ ਕੁਝ ਨਾ ਕੁਝ ਅਹਿਮ ਫੈਸਲੇ ਲਏ ਜਾਣ। ਮੇਰੀ ਮੁਰਾਦ ਹੈ ਅੱਜ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਕਰਵਾਉਣ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਮੋਜ਼ਸ ਜ਼ਨੇਮਰ ਨਾਲ। ਇਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਂਝ ਪਾਉਣਗੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਬਾਰੇ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੀ ਫਿਊਚਰ ਪਲਾਨਸ ਨੇ ਅਤੇ ਕੀ ਕੁਝ ਇਹ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਲੈਟਸ ਵੈਲਕਮ Mr. Moses to the program. Welcome, sir.
And how are you?
Doing great. Thank you very much for coming over here.
I was having a little bout of nostalgia listening to your introduction, because every once in a while I heard a little English word creep in there. And I was reminded of my own family. We were immigrants in the late 40s. And you know how it is in an immigrant household. The parents speak the old world language. The kids speak the new world language. And then there's this patois in between. So if you cross Yiddish, which was the household language of my parents, with English, you got Yinglish.
Right.
What happens when you cross Punjabi?
It becomes Pinglish.
Pinglish?
Yeah.
Do people actually use that word?
Well, yes, it is quite in use, because right now, as you have said, same is the issue with all the communities who come over here. The parents are talking about one language, the children come and mostly speak in English.
Yeah.
So as you started about yourself, how was your life as a child of an immigrant parent, and what were the kind of challenges and achievements which you achieved?
My word. Well, if you're young enough, things which in retrospect can represent enormous hardships. We were, for example, the only survivors of fairly large families on both sides, my mother's and my father's, from the Holocaust.
Right.
So I grew up literally not only as an only child, though eventually my parents had other children, but that we were the only Znaimers around. And yet, if it doesn't kill you in a way, it is a grand adventure that helps.
Right.
Because by the time I arrived in Canada, I was familiar with languages, cultures. Being on the run can sometimes feel, as I say, like a great adventure. You become used to different foods and a sense of a much wider world than you would normally have if you grow up in a small, tidy, peaceful, homogeneous community.
Right.
And so by the time I got to Canada, I felt somehow more adult, more mature, in a way more sophisticated than the kids that I was placed into school with.
Right.
And of course, when you're young, languages come to you very easily. And so it didn't take long at all. In fact, because of a medical issue I had, I was separated from my family almost immediately, and was sent off to the hospital for a little bit of repair.
Okay.
Having been a very adventurous kid and jumped out of different levels of windows, but the long and the short of it is, by the time I returned home 2 weeks later, I spoke English.
Wow.
You know, so in that sense, it can be invigorating.
Right.
Also, I went to what was called a parochial school, which meant we were dealing half a day with the mainstream English curriculum, and the other half a day, the way you might in a Sikh school, with the traditions of your people and so on. And again, that pressure, which from a distance looks intense. We'd start at 8 in the morning, we'd go till 6 in the evening.
Right.
We'd be studying, in addition to English and French, Hebrew and Yiddish and the history of the people and so on.
Right.
And again, it toughens you up. It makes you that much better.
Oh yeah, it instills that pride in you of your culture, of whatever culture you belong, because those whatever has been done by our ancestors, that really helps you to further think about how you're going to lead your life.
Yes.
So that thing motivated you.
It did, and then the rest of it is luck. You know, we came into a rising economy.
Right.
The post-war world was peaceful and in some sense abundant.
Right.
And there was just a tremendous amount of opportunity which I was able to seize.
Right. And during this period, what was it that brought in you that you should come to the media field? Was it at that time you started coming towards this side, or it was a later on transition, or you started with some business and then thought about becoming the media pioneer in Canada?
Well, one of the ways in which you acclimatize most easily and quickly is by listening and reading.
Right.
And so we got a radio very quickly into the household. Eventually, because I was born at a peculiar period
Right.
for kids today. I was born and educated at a time before the advent of television, and then witnessed the arrival of television.
Right.
And was old enough to think through what that might mean. And I could see that in a society that we were developing in Canada, with all these different groups flooding in immediately after the Second World War, that media became even more important
Right.
than usual. And for that reason, I gravitated to it because I understood its natural importance.
Right.
I had a very bookish upbringing, and still am very, very tied to print. And at the same time, though, I understood the power of broadcasting. And I remember I bought my family's first television set with the little bits of gift money that you get when you turn bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
You understand the concept
Yeah.
of bar mitzvah. Yeah, you come of age.
Right.
And I remember the night it was delivered, sitting in our living room and seeing this whole world of information and entertainment come to me. Whereas before, if you wanted anything like that, you had to go to
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Right? And in Quebec at the time, you couldn't even go see a movie if you were under 16 years of age without special permits and occasions and so on. So it seemed to me very important, very fundamental.
Right.
And that's when I guess the idea took hold, and I
Great.
just followed that.
And that
through.
just continued, that zenith to success continued, and here you are today as a media Mughal empire which you are holding. We'll continue with the discussion. Let's go for a small break.
All right.
ਇਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਹੋਰ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੀ ਇਸ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ ਦ ਹਰਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਸ਼ੋ